Captain on the bridge.
Alright, Captains, we are back on the bridge, and today what we wanted to do is catch up on our review slash reaction for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And today is going to be episode 6 and 7. Now, we have been busy in real life last 2 weeks, so I apologize, Captains, but of course, in real life, duties come first. Nonetheless, we're not going to stop doing this because we have met fellow captains who have enjoyed what we are trying to do, which is just share our love for Strange New Worlds. And yes, today is going to be 2 reviews slash reactions, but I'm going to try not to make it too long and see if we can get away with this format. But like I said, there's 2 episodes. What I'm going to do is go over my notes. Yes, I have my notes, drop my 2 ECs, and then give my conclusion slash ranking of now where 6 and 7 goes with my original ranking, which the last time I did this was episode 5. So, 2 episodes. The first episode we're going to go over is Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach. Oh, I will be very honest. We're going to put an image here of this episode up here so at least we have some reference points here. This hit me a little hard. I don't know why, but it did. And all the signs were there of what was sort of happening, but yet I was so engaged in what was happening in terms of how the pacing of the episode. And again, I will say for both episodes, the pacing again was great for me. I enjoyed it. I was glued to my screen when I was watching this. But for this particular one, oof, it hit a little hard. I will not lie. I had the feels. But we'll go over that as we go. Again, I'm just going to go over the notes here that I had. So again, we start the episode with a beautiful, beautiful Enterprise shot. Of course, Captain Pike doing his captain's log. Something about the Magellan system, where they're going, which is their mission. In the turbo lift, and of course Uhura comes in now. Apparently Uhura's a little sore for some combat training, but I wrote this down in my notes, Cap. And I think it's become such a meme. Pike's hair. I'm not gonna lie. Pike's hair. It is so perfect. Well, I mean, all I could do was laugh. I literally had a smiley LOL here in my notes because I was just laughing. I could not keep my again. This has been a meme on Twitter. I've seen it. It's been hilarious. I've said this before. Him and his Pikeisms are always present there, and I love it and I enjoy it. And this is a little bit more relationship building, just a little bit between Pike and Uhura. Uhura has a little bit of part here in this episode, and which is awesome because the last episode she didn't have that much, and she had a little bit of her expertise kind of shine through here, which I kind of appreciated. But you know, they're heading to the bridge. Lon says Uhura's late, and Lon's kind of talking to her about talking about like sort of security things, and Ortega's kind of plugs herself and is saying, threats don't take breaks. Looks like Uhura is getting trained by La'an when it comes to security measures, and a little bit La'an. I'll say La'an for this was a little again kind of pushy, but not too pushy. So I appreciate her in this episode and what she brought to this. I'm finding myself going up and down when it comes to my connection with La'an, and this one was a little bit further, but again, she wasn't too pushy. She was having her moments of just getting on Uhura's case, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not too big of a deal. When he gets a distress call, apparently from a non-Federation shuttle, that is under attack from a small combat cruiser. So then here is like one of the scenes here that now we have some pew pews, and it was kind of cute. Some blue laser ish type, kind of hitting this little shittle. And Captain, just in case you don't know, shittle is a little shuttle. It's just my criticism. And funny enough, this combat cruiser grappling hooks the little shittle. I didn't expect that, and there was uh, Pike hailing them, saying, "Stop what you're doing." And there was a shot of the Enterprise, of course, the sun arriving to the action. And what had happened was this combat cruiser started firing on the Enterprise. Apparently, it was just nothing. They kind of shook it off. It was a little bit of literally point zero something. The Hellmaster was saying how much damage they did. It wasn't a lot, so it's not like they can hurt the Enterprise. Now, Pike ordered her to fire. Again, she's being trained in security, tactical, looks like, and it says to charge the phasers to minimum capacity. Now, I will note when they fire the phaser, I will go back to what I noticed again. It's orange, so I think they're really gonna just lean into that. It's just orange. Sure, what it is, what it is. I've said this before. In Discovery, it was blue. Now it's orange. Sure. And what happened was apparently the cruiser moved as soon as her fired, and it literally decimated it. And the shuttle crashed and all that. And but there was readings of the shuttle life support failing. They get beamed aboard, and there was 3 people on board that they got, and it was a character by the name of Alora who recognizes Pike. And yes, this is the we'll get to that later, but this is that alien that was in the trailer that we covered when before Stranger Worlds came out, but says, Lieutenant Pike. So this was apparently a long time ago, looks like, and you can tell that there was something between. Like Pike was even bumbling when he was trying to introduce Una. That was hilarious. But also along with them was a child, along with his father, or well, he kind of says by biological father, and the kid's kind of hurt, so they are taken to the med bay. And so this is where I have this note here where Mabanga is reading to his daughter. I'm not gonna lie, I put a sad face here because, oof, and he actually does explain to his daughter of her situation, and because he was reading kind of the same book, and apparently it's set up where she can come out, but she can only stay. It's automated when she has to go back to the transport buffet, and I felt kind of sad. To be honest with you, I just felt feels, and Mabanga does a very good job, the actor, of really expressing that just gosh darn it type feeling, and it kind of hit the feels. And we get a little bit more background on this child. Apparently, he's kind of like some sort of holy figure, and it's kind of getting into so this race that Alora's from, they're not part of the Federation at all. And this is what got me a little. But the kid is known as the first servant. Actually, even said it on screen while he was in the med bay. Now, there was something here that was mentioned and scanned by the instruments there, which they kind of picked up on, and I just kind of it was kind of techno babble, but something about quantum bio implants. This kid has quantum bio implants that apparently heals, and that kind of does play a little bit into this whole thing, which I was not prepared for. I was really not prepared for. But apparently, this quantum bioimplants has something to do with their species, their race, their sort of way of living. There's no disease on Magellan, where they're from. So that is kind of something to keep in mind that I didn't even I kind of passed it, but because of course again scene goes to scene, and it does play a part. Now the father is known as Elder Kamal, who is also kind of like an ex-doctor, but is sort of who plays a really big role in this whole episode here. And he's really he's a former doctor, so he kind of and actually there's a scene here where Mabenga talks to him, asking, of course, about if this could reverse what his daughter is going, the sickness of his daughter, and kind of yes, but the theme is or the since they're not a part of the Federation, they cannot share this technology with them. That's a thing, and I kind of feel bad for Mabenga. He was almost like begging, and I felt that I really did. So, I've I said already before in my previous reviews, it's all about the connections, Cap. It really is all about the connections that I make with these characters, and I was able to connect with them. And maybe it's because I'm a father. That could be very well it, but I could empathize there. But, anyways, they go back to the crash site. There's an away team of La'an and Ahura. There's no life signs there. And a couple interesting thing happens here. So Uhura, there's like a touch screen. There's a screen there. She's about to touch it. La'an's like, hey, you're not supposed to do that. Use a tricorder, blah, blah, blah. But there's no life sign. And the reason why is La'an's like, well, with this, I believe she did say KDF technology or just technology in general where it could set off and blow up the ship. Well, lo and behold, there wasn't. Now, Spock's also there and also Laura. And there's two things that they find. One, Spock finds this weird little apparatus there, small, so he takes it. And Alora finds a sort of coin. Now, she calls it an oath a coin, but she's acting kind of sus there, really suspicious. And she kind of takes it back, but they're she again. This plays a part in how this all goes to the end. They're not Alora is not really being forthcoming, right? So, but that'll go. So, anyways, goes back to Alora with Pike in his room there. He's in danger. Need to perform a peaceful transfer of power. If that didn't mirror real life, I put note here. In real life, anyone like I just But anyways, going back to that old coin, it apparently is for servants who are sworn to protect the first servant and the guards. So, kind of, sort of tells Pike that, and for the most part, she kind of just tells him she got to go find out what's going on. So they actually go down to Magellan, and Pike is actually armed with a phaser. Now, this goes back to the med bay. Elder Kamal there with the first servant, with Spock showing neural dampener is what he kind of found. And it was saying that it was small enough to fit a child's head. So the whole plot is unraveling here. Now, the boy was asking Spock about technobabble. The kid, I will say here, I didn't make a note. The kid was very good, very bright, very confident. I can feel his confidence. So I don't know who this kid actor is, but he did a very good job. I really took to him quickly. I attached him quickly, and again, I didn't expect it. But again, we'll go over that. But it's some asks Spock about some sort of his own little kind of communications is kind of what I got from it, and they kind of it made me smile, because Spock was kind of really talking with the kid there, and it was really good. And apparently, Elder Kamal's like, well, the kid needs a rest, so you can go. But the thing to take from there is this kid has like this own communication subspace, whatever, and that'll come into play later. Of course, now Allura is now Magellan, speaking to their guards to renew their vows and asking each individual guard to renew. So this I had a little bit of an issue with. Okay, this I had a little bit of an issue of how this came. So one of the guards' casing for the coin was broken. And she asks him how that happened. And so he literally, and Alora's like right in front of this guard, and he runs for it, turns around and shoots one of the other guards. Of course, Pike's there to kind of, shield Alora, but he could have easily just killed her, which again didn't make sense. So again, there's a chase that happens, all right, and they're trying to chase his guard, and he's getting he's I think he kills a guard, and yeah, he did. He shot a guard, killed him, and it was just weird, Pike, of course, they kind of take a different route and heads him off, and Pike tackles him, and he's kind of disarmed, and Pike has his phaser there, kind of on him, targeted on him, and this here's where the stupid part happens. Alora kind of gets in the middle between Pike and the guard. The guard then takes her and has like a knife to her and literally is about to stab her. So why not? Okay, Triz, plot on her. But I'm just saying, could have just done that. Would have been done over with, right? But anyways, goes ahead and boom, takes Alora, but Alora kills him. Okay, and it was really kind of weird how that all went. I just didn't like how that played out. I feel like it could not. Now that was actually from one of the trailers. That scene of Pike being there in some of the kind of the garden looking area. Still, but anyways, then goes back to Uhura eating in the mess hall there. Time getting advice about Lon. Of course, Lon's right there, and lo and behold, Lon gets some like data chips or something for Uhura to translate. Now, apparently, this is against code because she took it without anyone knowing, and she just took it on her own and wants Uhura to kind of translate. And apparently, it's a lot, and Uhura's going, what? But, anyways, takes it. Now, it goes back to Medbay. Mabanga is saying there's no trace of trauma, but of course, this is about that whole bio quantum thing. And again, they can't share the tech, which kind of sucks. But, you know, this is, again, it was so hard. It was so hard. It was so hard. And again, I wrote here just the passion in his voice talking about his daughter, and he's doing a really good scene. Good job in the scene there. But again, I make a note here that lame was fight, but Pike escorts Alora to her room, saying, "Hey, I'll put some guards here." But of course, she's like, "No, why don't you stay?" Well, again, this is where that part of the trailer is where Pike was in bed with someone. Of course, we see her. We can see her, which is showing her back. But of course, it was Alora. But they're in bed. They did the deed, and they're talking about when they first met. Apparently, she was in a shuttle. She couldn't fly, and that's how he met her at first, and admits her like was kind of hitting on her. It was again more Pikeism there, and I make a note his hair was still perfect. But he also opens up about his future, and Alora actually says, "Well, of this medical technology, the quantum bio thing, but of course they cannot share it unless he were to live there." I made a note here that maybe this is gonna play a part later. I know that from what I've been told and what I somewhat have read, Pikes is just stuck in that hover chair, whatever you want to call it. And maybe this is going to be like a redact where he may go back to Magellan. Who knows? But having said that, we'll get to that later. Now, Hura finds La'an and got some info. La'an says, "Okay, you gotta take it to the captain." Takes it to the captain, and I thought it was a really good relation building between La'an and Hura, even though La'an was being her, rough self on her, but then it goes back to Mabanga in the med bay. He actually has a tray of food, bringing the food, and he finds the kids playing. his kid and the first servant. And the how they were playing was in that Mabanga's room, and they look like they're playing hopscotch. And again, the kid has some technobabble there. Again, the kid's really good, but Mabanga had to put his own back to the transporter. And the first servant does say, "Hey, overheard your conversation with Elder Kamal there," and you know, Mabanga says, "Listen, just don't say anything." Right? Elder walks in and gets the kid out, doesn't say anything. Goes to scene back to the bridge, and Uhura is given the report. Apparently, there is a sort of colony, Prospect 7, which matches to Magellan. And what they're saying is this colony, this Prospect 7, is an offshoot from Magellan. So that's kind of what they're finding. Now, Mbanga actually, at this point, calls the bridge and says, Elder getting the kid and leaving to the transporter room. Lana asks him to step down from it. They all get to the transporter room, and then, of course, Lana says, "Hey, stop." And then all of a sudden, Una finds a ship, and then all of a sudden, the kid is being re energized along with Elder. Now, at the same time, Elder comes back, and then there's this cruiser that is trying to now go to warp, which they tracked her. Now, this is kind of, wow, I had a moment here again that was kind of sold me, where the cruiser was about to leave and it was tractoring and apparently blows up. And Elder Kamal sees this and he's just like, he's like devastated, of course. And Pike is telling Alora what happened. Of course, how it looks like is the kid is gone, right? The kid is died in the blast because the ship was trying to go to warp its tractor beam and it wasn't released in time and the ship goes boom. So Laura's really upset, and of course, now comes a point where Uhura is blaming the Elder for what happened, and Kamal was responsible, and now Spock calls Pike to join him, and of course now Elder Kamal is brought to the brig because he was, again, the sus is around him, right? That's kind of where it's going now. But Spock tells Pike about the first servant signal distress, that the first servant is actually still on the Enterprise. So the kid's there. He needs to get to Magellan, and the feeling of tense was there when when they were searching, and of course that whole subspace thing came into play because the kid asked him about it, and they found him in like one of these holds there, and I made a note here, feeling tense, and for me, kids made it, so the kid kind of saved himself. I had put my initial note, but of course that's not exactly what happened. But now they're back on the planet. They're celebrating. The kid gets there. They're just like, woo! But Pike calls out Laura about Prospect 7, failing to tell him about it. Now, again, this is where the pacing of this is still good for me, even though it's going back and forth. But again, it's always telling that story from like story A, B, C, D, E, whatever, how much they have going on. But Una goes to the brig to Kamal. Apparently, this neural thing is supposed to stop, this neural network thing, whatever, is supposed to stop the kid from ascending, is kind of what they're calling it. This kid is supposed to ascend. And up to this point, Alora has kind of alluded that the Magellans will live for, the people there will live for this child, this first servant. And then, of course, Kamal says he wanted to save his kid. And then from what? That's the issue. From what? It's kind of too late because Una says, "Hey, listen, they've already started the celebration, unfortunately." And Alora kind of cleared it for Pike to go along with her servant to this thing called the Sacred Chamber where he's supposed to ascend. And now this is where kind of when it goes back to the bridge, tries to get Pike out of there, tell Pike at least. And of course, now the planet is completely shielded. They cannot get Pike. Now this looks the next scene is in the chamber. Now the chamber is this huge. It reminds me of the Matrix setting there. It's a bunch of it's kind of like almost down beneath the surface. It's this sort of old technology kind of look to me. But in the chamber, Laura's asking the kid if it's okay, he's okay to give himself. And I made a note like to sacrifice what? And see, I got goosebumps, and I'm getting goosebumps again. And what had happened while he was being asked this, a body was being literally brought out, and he saw it and gasped, and he's like, "Oh!" And this is where I got, and this is where it hit. I will be honest, captains. And Allura allows. I think Pike wanted to see it, and it's a dead child. And Pike, see, I'm getting goosebumps. The hairs on the back of my head are raising. And Pike's asking him to stop. Pike tries to fight, and it's too late. The kid gets hooked up, and that's the image there. And it's too late. The kid gets hooked up. It's like when he got hooked up, his whole being just kind of froze. And that was the purpose of this first servant, was to literally get hooked up to this whatever it is. Now, Pike gets knocked out, and when he wakes up, he's in bed right there, and she's saying that the ascension is complete. Pike tries to say, I'm going to go back for the kid, but severing the connection will kill the kid. Saying that you plug the kid in the machine needs neural. Apparently, they need the neural network of this kid. And yes, the kid is going to suffer, the child's going to suffer, and kind of Pike realizing what this whole thing about. That's the realization I get into this. Man, that was really oof. That hit hard. That hit hard. I don't know why, but it did. Literally just sacrificing a kid. Maybe I guess I felt the feel to the point where how Pike's reaction was kind of how I was reacting, and in disbelief there. Pike said, "I'm going to report you to Starfleet," but they're like, "Here, Starfleet, part of the Federation." Again, Pike leaves, and of course, Alora's crying. Banger and Elder Kamal there. Kamal, the scene is in the next scene. Kamal is requesting transfer to Prospect 7, talking about his daughter to allow him to look, and to look at his files, the files of Mbenga's daughter, and that he might possibly come up with something, not a cure, but just something. And I wrote here feels. I actually said feels because again, Mbenga, the actor there, was doing such a good job. These two, and the whole point here was Elder Kamal was his father. We knew that already. The plot was he was trying to save his son. That's it. Stopping him to ascend, which the ascension is him being hooked up into this neural network that will. It doesn't really. I mean, Alora does say it's going to stop the sort of planet from destroying itself, but it doesn't go into too much detail if that's actually going to happen. That's the whole thing. And his point was he created that whole plot to save his son and not ascend. So that plot of him taking him out from the med bay, getting energized on the ship blowing up, even though he gets tucked into the Enterprise, that was just ruse so that he can take his son away so that they can go back to Prospect 7. People in Prospect 7 are actually ones who have pulled away from that culture, from that civilization, and are sort of trying to stop these first servants from doing what they're, even though they say that the kid was ready for it. I wasn't. I'll just say 100%, I wasn't ready for it. And the last scene here is Pike is in his quarters. He's actually looking out, like he's actually drinking, and that one hit hard. And maybe it was because of the realization of that it was a sacrifice of the kid. But as much as Starfleet likes to get in their hands into sort of these situations, it was kind of inevitable that they can't do anything. He really can't do anything. They're not part of the Federation. They have no jurisdiction there, and it doesn't matter what he wanted to do. It was too late. So that was that episode. And like I said, ranking this one, I'd have to rank that one. My previous ranking was 14352. Now it's 146,352 in terms of the episodes. And again, I've said it before, but two, just because it's the last one, it isn't bad. It's just that's just how I rank. So now I noticed one thing. Well, one thing, but Hammer wasn't in that episode. He was not. Kind of sucks. Now that was that episode. Again, feels hurt. It was a lot of hair raising feels there that was going on. That I think the reason why I rank it the way I did was because of the emotional pull it gave, took me along with it, and I just didn't see it coming. I really didn't. So there's that. Now we're gonna go and get into the episode 7. That again. So again, all these shots there I got from the episode. Now the next one here I have called the Serene Squall. Oof. This one I had trouble ranking. I really did. It just kind of hit differently. But we'll go over it here. Again, I'm trying to condense 2 episodes here because I missed the 2. Now, again, it's called the Serene Squall. The opening scene of, apparently it's called the Ankestan Katil Vulcan Criminal Rehab Center. Nice looking scene. It's kind of almost looks like that scene where Spock was going to go was fighting, but it's a panning shot, like a rehab center. This is where T'Pring works. This is where she works, and she's kind of given a personal log and about talking about rehabbing the Vulcans who have kind of led astray, and of course talking about Spock and their relationship. So she, the next kind of scene there is her talking with Spock, and yeah, I'm sorry, she wants to spice things up with Spock, and apparently she does research on. She was doing research on human sexuality. Even I can't say. And Spock is drinking something. He almost chokes on himself, and I thought it was hilarious and very uncomfortable. But I liked it. Again, it was sort of I think the human side coming on. I can appreciate that. So very very uncomfortable, and like yeah, we'll talk about that later. But next scene, Chapel and Spock are walking down the hallway. Chapel's talking. This one, I love Chapel. She did really good, in my opinion, in this episode. But they're talking. Spock seems very uncomfortable, distracted, and of course, then he asks for some advice. Talking about T'Pring, and it's about the whole sexuality thing. And it was a good moment between the two. And I thought, again, this is going to be a reoccurring theme, and this is what pulled me into this episode. Actually, more this than the main things, but I think that's because I do actually enjoy the actress who's playing Nurse Chapel. It is what it was. Now, next scene is apparently they're in a dinner room. I think it's Pike's quarters. Now, the character that we get introduced to named Dr. Aspen. And along with her is Pike, M'Benga, Una, Spock, and Chapel. They're kind of talking about sort of her backstory, but she kind of mentions about Pike being a Boy Scout and literally Una saying it's actually in Pike's file, which was pretty hilarious. Now, their mission is to deal with some pirates, and backstory on Aspen was she used to be a counselor on Starbase 12, and of course she left because she wanted to do the own humanitarian help. Dr. Aspen, I liked her. I think she was a very good character, and she had some sass. She had some sass, and it was really apparent throughout the whole thing. But we'll get into that now. Lon calls Pike. There's apparently they get into this. You know, they all go to the bridge. on screen there is like a debris of the colonists. Apparently, there's a warp signature detected, and huge debris from ships that were just destroyed. So of course they have to go follow it. But here's a kicker: they need to get approval from Starfleet because it's past non-Federation space. So Pike asks Spock how long that's going to take. He's like 2 days to get this. Like, well, nope, we're going. So there's a Boy Scout. Totally got that vibe of the Boy Scout, but they left a buoy there just in case. But still, they're going into non-Federation space, so they're going to be on their own essentially. And of course, it goes into the intro and just some good stuff, just some really good stuff. Now, we'll say that when it comes to the again, every shot that Pike's in, he's always anchoring it. He's always really wherever he goes, that's where the mood goes. And I really do appreciate the acting. And again, there's a little spice here from that Dr. Aspen. But anyways, this next scene is Spock going to the room. There's loud music. Now I've made a note here. There's no like noise dampeners on a starship. It was like really loud music. Door opens. Apparently Aspen's working out, but Spock asks her to go to the bridge. And the situation on the bridge is there's a signal detected, and it was this scene here is from one of the trailers where Ortega is saying how close you want to get. First date or third date. Pike says blind date. That's from the trailer. And then we see this awesome shot of the Enterprise again. Love the respect it's showing the Enterprise. They're flying through a asteroid field. Now, when they're flying, there's like a web network that comes up, and there's a hilarious line here where now they're trapped in this web laser field, and Fox telling everyone, "Hey, this is you don't want to cross this," and then Pike makes comments about crossing streams or beams, and I thought it was like a reference to Ghostbusters. But anyways, the Enterprise is trapped. Dr. Aspen suggests to find a specific one and then target it, but at this point, it's kind of reliant on Spock's sort of guess because he doesn't know 100%. And he does make a guess. And when he guesses, tells him where to fire, he actually sort of closes his eyes. So showing a very uncomfortable moment. And I could say in this episode, I was connecting with Spock a lot more. But apparently, he's told to go with your gut, makes a choice, they fire, boom, web collapses. So there you go. Now they're flying through, they pass that. There's a vessel that detaches. That's going to play a part later. Now, Aspen goes to Spock's quarters, and and Spock's kind of analyzing kind of the web that they went. They're kind of the discussion here was really good. I really appreciated the sort of relationship building between Spock and Aspen makes a comment. I'm not going to go into the details of the conversation, but it was a really good conversation. But the note I made here, discuss about, I guess, choice made. And of course, he wasn't comfortable with. Aspen's talking about people acting who they are not to fit in, and then tells Spock to stop analyzing and stop wasting time, like I mentioned before. But he also is talking about Spock's human Vulcan side. Spock's like, well, if I'm not Vulcan, what am I? And she's like, well, that's not for me to answer. So, sorry, boundaries. And she mentions Vulcan boundaries. Again, that's going to play a part later on. So back to the bridge. Ortega's flying the Enterprise manually. I love it. I really do. I'm here for it. And she's saying like it's like she's having a deep conversation, like a third date. I thought it was pretty funny. Ortega is having her moments. I do actually, of course, show the Enterprise flying, and they find the ship. Now, the ship has not apparently noticed them. So Pike and Lon they go to the transporter room, and they're gonna go on a away mission. There's a funny Una there and Pike, which I always love because he's always trying to make a lighthearted of any situation that he's in. But they get to the ship. There's no colonists. It's Pike, La'an, and a couple of red shirts. I'm just calling them red shirts. And apparently they're losing signal, and the Enterprise gets boarded. So this is a trap. This is definitely a trap. Now, there's firing. Chapel notices she is literally She literally like escapes. Now the away team gets surrounded. Of course, they get captured. Now it goes to the bridge. They notice that there's fire. Una calls battle station. That was from a trailer that we covered. So this is now the fight on the bridge. Now apparently Una gets hit. Ortegas gets hit. Spock is like whooping. He's like kicking butt. And there's firing left, right, and center. And Aspen actually saves Spock. Takes a hit. And apparently they were just stunning. They were just stunning. But they get into the turbo lift. And, the away team is captured there. Also now on the planet goes to where, again, another trailer that we saw Pike getting interrogated by this Ryan green dude, which you see there. And this is where I mentioned that one of the trailers where he got hit. Like, it looks like he got hit like really hard. So, and he's actually being welcomed to the Serene Squall. Now, Spock and Aspen go to med bay, and he on the way sees the crew captured, so Una and the other officers. So then they go take the Jeffries troop. Now, what had happened in that fight before they actually entered the bridge? Una locked all the access codes and everything, so the ship is locked out to any invaders. Now, Pike is now being asked for these codes, and of course he's being beaten up. And it was a kind of hilarious. This is now where his hair got messed up. So I'll just make a note of that. His hair now finally got messed up, which I thought was. And he gets some food thrown in his face. Now Pike, of course, is doing his Pikeisms, and he actually convinces the crew to actually get to eat a good meal. And one of the pirates there is asked, "My food's not bad or something?" And she is like, "It's yeah." She doesn't say anything, so it was pretty funny. But again, he convinces him. I think that was pretty stupid that he was able to convince and hold it off. But we're led to believe that this guy, this green guy, this Ryan, is a captain, but we're gonna find out he's not. Now you can see Chapel trying to access the scene. Now this scene again is one of the trailers. She's being asked to turn around. She's not armed, other than hyperspray and or whatever she had contraption with her, and she takes down these two guys. And so she's got some fight. And again, like I said, this episode, I'm loving Chapel, loving what she's bringing to Strange New World. Feisty, and we get more of her later on. But so now goes to back to the ship. Pike looks like chilly, so it was kind of funny. And of course now he's talking to Orion and saying literally like, you're gonna really hijack the Enterprise. You don't want the Federation to come after you or anyone else to come after whoever's gonna get the Enterprise. And he's like, yeah, well, whatever. It'll be too late until Starfleet gets here. And for the most part, even mentioned that KDF would want slave labor and all that stuff. And he made eye contact with that one crew member. Apparently, then sparked an idea in his head. And of course, we'll get into that later. Now, Spock and Aspen are in medbay. Spock takes care of Dr. Aspen. Aspen now talks about her husband, who is a Vulcan. Yes, who is a Vulcan. Of course, I may put that picture there. Usually I do have slides, but again, we had to try to compress 2 episodes in one. So, and he has a little bit more backstory, but again, he's acting a little sus. Spock gets some phasers, gives her a phaser. She's like, no, no, no. But she takes, again, really acting very, very sus. Now, back to ship with the captured crew. Pike isn't more, even gets thrown into the brig with everyone else. About more good news. They're going to get sell KDF. And of course, the idea that is sparked in Pike's head is something called Alpha Braga 4, which is apparently just starting a mutiny. And Spock and Aspen back on the Enterprise, they make it to the engineering. No Hemmer. And I'll make this note, there's no Hemmer. But Nurse Chapel was there already and trying to send a distress call. Now Spock overrides a lockout, and then Aspen takes over the ship. So Aspen apparently is not her name. Her name is Captain Angel, and they get taken to the bridge. So she was the captain, not the Orion. She's the captain of this Squall ship. Now, it is apparently a fake identity, of course, and she's like, I got the ship. She sits in Pike's chair and says, fire the phasers, and they're still red. Now, what I noticed with the fire, it was like 4 beams all at once, so we may have to do something on Star Trek Online with that, but or not orange, like red, but orange. So apparently, Captain Angel came for Spock, and the reason for that. So now, back at the rehab, T'Pring is there. There is a subspace transmission from Captain Angel, shows Spock, and of course, she is wanting someone by the name of Severius, and they want to do a swap. So now, Aspen very good with her attitudes, is what I mean here, and there was real good back and forth, but she was really being sassy and essentially told her, "Hey, I'll be in these coordinates," and really, she says using emotion to sway Spock all day. That was her whole plan, literally mocking Spock, and it was a really good exchange between the two. I did enjoy that acting. It's kind of more. It felt more natural. It felt natural. But then, of course, back on the ship, they're feeding the prisoners there. They are talking loudly to the crew to overhear. And of course, the woman says there, the crew member is not the captain. Of course, Mike was trying to make her mutiny. And kind of, says Alpha Braga 4 works every time. Now, the Vulcan ship warps in. It was kind of interesting. I didn't get really a chance to look at it, but we'll try to look at it again there. But Vulcan tells T'Pring, Spock tells T'Pring not to do this. Literally goes in front of Angel in the screen, and he gets shot in the back, and Angel just stuns him. Now, Spock says giving to human emotions, telling her that he's cheating with Chapel when he gets up from this, and it was just sort of his plan. He kind of told Nurse Chapel, just kind of follow my lead, and he says that we're in love. Oh, now Spock and Chapel kiss. Now, this is where I will say that Nurse Chapel really sold this, and it meant a lot to her. And this is why I enjoy this episode, or at least Chapel's part in this episode, because it was a chance for her to kiss Spock, and it was real. It was real, and of course now, T'Pring and Spock kind of terminate their bond and says goodbye. Like that's it. It was literally like 2 seconds, some hand signals, they're done. And Angel says to destroy the ship. And of course, now the systems are locked out. Pike warps in the Serene Squall. Apparently, Una says the backdoor code disables everything. And I had to laugh here. Pike is now, again, his hair is messed up. So, not perfect anymore. And it looks like he's in this old school pirate ship steering wheel. I thought that was pretty hilarious there. I put it a little LOL there. But of course, Pike orders to disable to gently fire the Enterprise, and it just disabled thrusters, and Ortega shoots, fires, like I said, gently, and I love that. It just, for me, it showed a connection, the captain to the ship. I appreciated that. And of course, Spock now says the logical move is to surrender. Angel talks about Severus talking about Spock a lot. And that necklace, apparently she had earlier, they were going to the bridge there when Spock took her from her workout. Spock helped her to put this necklace on. Apparently, it's in a transport device. And where this goes, she transported herself to that vessel that was on the asteroid earlier, that detached from the asteroid when they fled that laser sort of trap there. And of course, it warps out. Now, the mutiny was still in progress, goes back there. There's a shot that came out from the back there, and they're like asking them to get out there. But there's again an oof shot of the Enterprise in warp. It was absolutely beautiful. Loved it. Everything there. And of course, Pike is doing a captain's log on the bridge. He's like, "Arr, me mateys." I thought it was really hilarious. Again, I did actually laugh out loud. And Una's like, "Please stop. Stop." Again, the relationship between the crew, I absolutely love it. I am there for it. I thought it was just awesome all around. Again, from the beginning to end, the closing off, it does really good in my opinion. And again, I appreciated that. And of course, Spock's in his quarters next. T'Pring comes in. He says sorry to her, and it's a good moment between the two. Again, I said in episode 5, I connected a lot more with Spock and T'Pring, and that's still carrying through here. T'Pring knew it was a sort of plot or whatever, and she suggests, well, I think we need to do rebonding again. Sure. Sure. They didn't show it much, they just did kissing, so the Enterprise comes out of warp, and of course, Chapel's in the med bay. Spock comes there, says, thank you, Chapel. Of course, Chapel, you can tell, is kind of upset, and says, no hard feelings, no feelings between them. Kind of glad to hear that, and again, you can see Chapel was hurt. Now, of course, Chapel asks Severius, and here's a reveal. Severius is actually Spock's half brother, Sybok. And of course, we know Sybok is from the TMP movies. And that's the big reveal. That's where it kind of leaves off. And it was very. And that was who T'Pring was actually going to see. So that was the reveal there in that episode. So it was the episode where we get a view of T'Pring seeing Sybok, and now we're gonna have to see what happens. So, again, the things I noticed, captains, in these 2 episodes is Hemmer, no episodes in both. So, where I'd rank this, I'd say 7. I'd have to say 7, and or 6 and 7. So 1, 4, 6, 7, 3, 5, 2. My ranking, and I find the 6 and 7 were kind of evil for me. But they were really good. Again, I just thought I would get this out there, captains, because I have been late. Still loving it. This episode was really good. I thought Chapel really shone for me personally. And Aspen, Dr. Captain Angel was really good, of course. And that whole Cybok reveal, I'm wondering where that's going to lead to. The episode 6 with the child there, that was kind of hitting hard there. But for the most part, again, captains, I'm enjoying this, and I do this because I've really leaned into the Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and I'm loving it. So there's my 2 ECs on these 2 episodes. Captains, comment below what you think. I know, again, I apologize, we had to do a compression, but actually we were less than what we normally do on one episode. So I'm not sure if this style is better, where I just kind of get a collection of stuff and I just go off of the notes I have. But let me know in the comments below. But I'm loving, I love 6 and 7. I hope I can get to watch 8 there. And once we do, though, we'll do our review. Of course, we'll drop our ECs, but still loving Strange New Worlds, still loving all this stuff. And I hope that we get to see some of the stuff that we saw on screen so far in Star Trek Online, which, captains, that's kind of my primary stuff content that I cover here on the YouTube Bridge. So subscribe here to the YouTube Bridge. Again, captains, we're going to finish this through. We're going to see this through at the very least up until episode 10. And then we will give an overall ranking of everything. So far, 1, 4, 6, 7, 3, 5, 2 is where I have it. But with that, captains, we're going to leave it on this note.
Live long and prosper.